Okay, welcome once again to Architects of the Technical Win, the podcast built by pre-sales professional for pre-sales professional. It's time for episode number 4. Last episode, we discussed creating and managing executive connections and its importance for the SE community. Today, we'll get into the details of what it takes to become a true trusted advisor for the customer. I will call this as the core of being an SE. Our guest today is Abhishek. Abhishek is the leader for pre-sales at Okta with more than 20 years of experience. He's seen a lot many organizations and lot many functions. So welcome to the show, Abhishek.
Thank you, Anshuman. Thank you, Sri. Great to be here.
So, we are very much interested to know more about you. So, let's start with LinkedIn. Your introduction is very interesting and it says, I help overworked SEs stop running on the treadmill. How do you want to put this? What's behind this?
Right. So it's based on my own experience, Sri. I was an IC for like 13 years before stepping into management. And just like everyone else, I thought that working hard will really get me far. So I was jumping from POCs to POCs, demo to demo, deal to deal. And I was running pretty fast, but I was not getting more valuable because those two are completely different things. So what changed for me is finally realizing and taking a pause and investing time on skills that compound, like executive presence or storytelling or influencing in a discovery. So those things ultimately help me not to work too much, but actually be more effective. And I did the previous part for a long time before actually realizing it. And that's what my content is on LinkedIn, is to help SEs come down from that. And my one-on-one discussions with most of them out there say the same thing, that time spent in your day-to-day task or day-to-day ops is not really pushing the envelope for you. There are some other things that you have to focus on as well to really get ahead on that. So that is on the LinkedIn piece.
Okay, and I hope you are succeeding in that, and more SEs learn from what you are telling them. We follow you very actively on LinkedIn, Abhishek, and good, very interesting post that you put on LinkedIn. Just tell us more about how this role is evolving in the modern world. What is changing, what is not, and how should SEs adapt themselves for a long term career?
Right. I mean, I came into this role long ago. I still remember talking to a first Oracle SE, maybe circa 2009, and I was working as a backend engineer for one of the products, and that is the time I figured out that I also want to be a SE. Back then, the information was pretty gated. The information was not out there. Every SE knew their own products pretty well, and that was enough for them to succeed, at least in their own company. Cut to today, what has really evolved, as you asked, Anshuman, is information is free. It's all around you. Customers come in prepared. They have all kind of collaterals in front of them. So that is no longer that will set you apart. You cannot be a level 1, this feature does this. You can even not be a level 2, which is, okay, you have this problem, I will use 10 other features to solve it. You can't even be that. What has really changed, the second shift, is all that information has actually also caused a little bit of confusion. And you can try this yourself. If you want to buy a phone or a TV right now, try putting it in AI that this is what you need. See what happens. And this is not very different from any customer who wants, say, endpoint security and puts that requirement in AI. There'll be so much that will come at them. So what is needed is judgment, is recommendation, and more than that, accountability from that. So what comes out of all of that is trust has become a scaling issue, at least in my business. So what has happened is companies want SEs to do more opportunities. So basically, I call it more SE per SE. If you need that, then trust or anything else becomes a problem. Because if you need 6 calls with the customers to create that trust, then you can't really work on so many opportunities. You need to do it within the first call itself, which means that the focus on soft skills is even more important. So I think that has changed. While is basically we are changing tires while the car is running. SEs who for some time now will have to relearn all of that while all of this is happening.
So, talking about trust, we are told that we have to be a trusted advisor to our customers. How do you define a trusted advisor?
Well, if you would have asked me like 15 years ago, I would have very simple answer. Someone who knows everything, first of all, so technical prowess. And second, customers like them or adore them, something like that. So just technical knowledge and likeness. What I figured out very soon enough is even if customers likes me a lot, if there is no PO at the end of our engagement, that is, it's all for nothing. And the same is for technical knowledge as well. So what I realize is through various experience of mine working with customers, when they call me, when they don't even have a buying decision in front of them, that is trusted advisor. When they ask you things when there is nothing at the table, when they just want to know your recommendation, is what trusted advisor is, in my opinion. Anyone who can reduce the risk for them. And of course, there are various factors to it. But in one line, if I want to describe it, it's if the customer is reaching out to you, even if they shift organizations and they go to somewhere else and they still call you, that's trusted advisor. Remember that I didn't talk about technical knowledge. I didn't talk about like talking to them very frequently. None of that is important. There are other factors which come into that.
Very well put.
So we will talk about it as we move forward. This definition to my mind is a very enterprise centric. But okay, so let's continue on this. So suppose a customer trusts you, okay? And I think all of us have been SEs for such a long time. So my question on their behalf to you, Abhishek, is if the customer trusts you, what unfair benefits can you attain by that trust in the deal or after the deal, whenever?
Imagine you go to a doctor for someone for a problem that you have. Let's say you went to a new hospital or a new doctor, and you most probably will answer the question that is asked. You won't be open to offer a lot more information. But imagine that that is your family doctor. That is a doctor that has treated you for a long time. There you would be even open to discuss embarrassing stuff that you may not mention to someone who has not earned your trust. I see the unfair advantage similar to that. If customer has that much trust in me and I have earned that over a period of time, I have seen that competitors are mentioned. Budgets are also disclosed for that matter. And unsaid requirements or limitations or timelines are also divulged to you. Take even RFP. I mean, RFP is a process where if it is published, it's actually a reflection of who had the trust. So all of it comes down to the fact that if you have it, you know more than others about the requirement or about how to actually make the sale happen.
Well said.
You talked a lot about trust and all. And many a times it happens in a customer engagement. Someone says he or she trusts you more than me. Can we really measure trust?
I mean, the folly is thinking that trust is earned in a single opportunity or a single account or anything like that. I believe that trust is a set of repeated habits, is basically habits that you repeat again and again and again, and that's how you earn it. In terms of trying to measure it, of course, there are certain components of trust that goes within it. And if you repeatedly show those traits, you will definitely earn trust. So rather than measuring trust, I would measure the leading indicators of trust, and that will define whether you have it or not. For example, I'll definitely measure whether you have credibility with the customer, which comes with competence, obviously, whether you know your craft, whether you know what you're talking about. That's the first piece and very important. All of us are supposed to have it, table stakes. Then, of course, comes reliability, which means do you do it again and again on a repeated basis without any interruption in between? If you say that I'll come back to you on this, and you don't miss that even after the demo within 24 hours, you actually come back. And I see SEs doing it. They record a small video and send it to the customer saying, okay, this came up to my mind after we had the call, and do it again and again. Then you become reliable, that someone who is consistent. And of course, there is intimacy is the third piece. If you do the first two things a lot over a period of time, and again, as Anshuman said, this may only apply to enterprise customers, not to customers who you interact with only a few times, but you create an intimacy with them. They are very comfortable with you. And this is also often shown in the small talk before or after the call, or even the kind of email communication that you have. So it's a combination of that. Now, people think it's credibility plus reliability plus intimacy, but I'll say it's multiplication, because if any one of them is zero, the end result is zero. And of course, there's a denominator here, which is your self orientation. How much are you in it for yourself? Can they really smell that you're trying to push this new product or this new feature or this new solution because you're worried about your quota? Or what is your intent? Is the intent to help them or something else? Then ultimately trust will come by.
Very well put.
Wow. That's quite an effort. And I think over a period of time it starts coming naturally to people. Let me ask you one more question here. So when you get into a transaction or engagement, you will have more than 3 or 4 people who typically end up taking a decision. So in a complex B2B deal scenario, how do you work on the trust? So is it at an individual level? Is it at a team level? And how possible it is to work with different levels of trust within the same team? So these are the 4 people. One trusts you more, may just not trust you, and one may be average. But
Right.
what's your take on this?
Right. So I was never a good sprinter back in school, but I would always take part in the relay races because it was always fun to take the baton and run. What I believe is the B2B sales is also not a 100-meter sprint. There's always sales that kind of starts that discussion and hands over the baton to the SE, let's say in stage 2 discovery. Then SE does a good job, reaches a technical win, let's say everything closes. Then the SE hands over that baton to professional services. They hand it over to customer success or customer support later on. So it's obviously a group effort. So trust is important at every level. Having said that, it always begins with the account team. I highly believe that. All they see is you. So in that case, trust can definitely start at that point by following all those things that we discussed above. You were very credible. You were hell bent on helping them rather than your own things. You were challenging the customer. You build the trust. So they had a good start. But of course, whatever enablement or culture that is there in accounting needs to be propagated down the line as well. But even if that doesn't happen, I mean, I have personally seen that if the account team has very strong connect and relation and if they are in their court, you can withstand some turbulence down the line. But of course, if all 4 are in sync, 4 or 5 are in sync, nothing like it.
Super. You gave us some ideas in terms of how it is built, how it is measured, and if I summarize it, it says a set of repeatable activities which help us building the trust. Okay. Now, not all situations are same, Abhishek, and always you have all the time available to you build the trust. Okay. So what I will do, I will give you 3 scenarios, and in these 3 scenarios, you need to tell how leveraging trust, a deal can be moved in your favor. Situation number 1, this is an existing customer. So it's your account, but for the company, but it's stagnant. So your job is to grow. The second scenario I will take is a competition scenario. It's never given you chance, doesn't let you step inside. And now you have been given this account. Jao, crack karo, right? So how do you start there? So that is the one. And third one, to my mind, from a trust point of view, is where the maximum advantage comes, but it's the toughest one, is the RFP scenario. Public sector bank, driven by process, driven by controls. Something is happening, some RFP is being written, and you need to go and win leveraging trust. Okay, so 3 scenarios plus what in each scenario, what should be the right strategy or.
Right. In the middle of my SE career for like a good long time, I worked on expansion accounts. So I can relate to the number one. And my AE always used to say, that working with expansion accounts or existing accounts is like being married for like a decade. You don't wake up trying to impress the other person so much. The recognition of the value that the account team brings comes down a little bit, and that's the fact. So the thing that always helped me is just diagnosing what they have right now. And some companies may call it health check. There are other names for it, but whatever they are using, are they using it to the best? So diagnosing their existing setup always kind of helps bring more trust. Also, never disengage from them. Any events that are happening, anything that you can invite them as a speaker in something like that, always keeps the engine running. And there will always be new people to find. So even if that's an existing account, it need not be an existing personnel. You can find new people within the account and then have a new logo kind of a trust building exercise with them. Again, the whole product overview, solutioning, stuff like that. So you can always do it in those existing accounts. And that's how you keep yourself interested in that account. Because sooner or later, if you don't do it, you yourself will be disengaged from that account. And that's the worst outcome. For competitive account, I mean, I remember when I was watching Virat Kohli's interview back in 2014 when he took over the captaincy from Dhoni. And he said that the first thing he did was like go into the dressing room and ask people what made you follow Dhoni, like what was so good about him. So know that first. Unless I know why the earlier or the existing product is really working, why the competition is working. Because every company has a DNA. Every company solves a specific problem. You don't really have to go after that. You'll have to find something else in the periphery of that problem that you can really solve, and you can create your own niche. I mean, I have like in where I work, there is a huge company that is everywhere, and we don't need to replace them. We can co-live with them. So co-living is something that I always recommend. And the last thing that you said on RFPs, as I earlier said, if RFP is already out, and when I see it, when I used to see when we all saw it together in Dell, it always says that okay, this vendor actually built the trust already. It's a lagging indicator of trust, RFP, if it is already in your hands. And if it is not, then that means that if you have invested 6 to 9 months in building those trust pillars that we discussed earlier on Crisp, if you have done that, then you can influence the RFP itself. That is again a output of your trust. That is how I kind of see in those three scenarios how trust can play out.
So if I put this in one word or one line, there is no shortcut, right? So for all scenarios, you need time.
It's like a bank account is with deposits and withdrawal. Every time I tell the customer, sorry, I don't know, but I'll come back, and I do come back, it's a deposit. Every time I try to push a product because there's a spiff going on or it's a new AI shining stuff and they don't need it, they can sense it. That's a withdrawal from the account. Because every time they trust you, they're putting their own reputation. I mean, another thing I learned is basically trust, and I am going to define trust for you at the end of this. Trust is also withdrawing from their reputation in the account. Because if the customer is trusting on you, their reputation either goes up or goes down. So you can also kind of see it from that perspective. So yeah, that's what it is. It's a bank account and it's an ongoing balance. You keep on adding or taking out from it.
Great. And we will talk about subtraction in a couple of questions from now.
Yeah. So, referencing back to the trust that we are discussing, as an SE manager, how do you inculcate the building trust in your team? How do you go about it?
As I said, and with the advent of call recording, things have become extremely easy. Otherwise, the SE manager had to be actually present everywhere. As I said, these are set of behaviors that I want my SEs to repeat again and again and again. It is different for early in career SEs, different for mid career SEs, and experienced SEs. It looks slightly different for all of them. But for example, pick anyone with, let's say, 4 or 5 years experience. What I look for in their engagement is again the same behaviors that I that I talked about. And I normally, there are three pillars to it. The first thing is I lead with example. So I will normally join a few calls with them and I kind of show them, okay, this is how you can push back. This is how you can redraw the opportunity to your advantage. So this is completely okay. And it actually builds trust. And once you do that, you also coach them later on their demo skills. For example, I always ask them to ask two more questions before you actually recommend something. Like always go one level deeper before you actually start recommending, because nobody mentions everything on the first go. So ask two or three more questions before you recommend. These are the kind of consistent behavior I track in their demos. And even afterwards, it's extremely easy to look at pre-sales metrics and figure out how things are going for each SE. Time to technical win is a very good metrics which can tell you how soon SEs are reaching stage 1 to stage 6. So I lead with examples, then I coach them in the call itself, and then there are some metrics as well that I kind of track to see how that is going.
So, are there any books or any trainings as well? Because you yourself, you're a very avid reader. So, would you recommend something?
Of course, most of the things I know, they come from books or experiences. So I, again, to all the listeners here, I would highly recommend them to at least pick one book from their profession, any profession. At least read one book a year, if not more. For trust, the equation that we talked about, it comes from The Trusted Advisor by David Meister. This is a classic book which kind of lays down the credibility, reliability, and intimacy and self-orientation formula. It was like path-breaking and is highly consulted, because every one of us these days are building trust on Zoom. We are not building it in the room most of the time. It's on Zoom. On video, your communication skills need to evolve a little bit. I highly recommend Look Me in the Eye by Julie Hansen. That book is really good on creating trust on camera, because mostly that's what you're doing. It's different from creating trust in the room. And there's also a book I remember which specifically talks about SEs not trying to polish their solution, but always mention trade-off, mention limitations. Because if you do that, customers can always sniff that. I think it's called The Transparency Sale by Todd. And that is a good book for maintaining transparency, not only in sales conversation, but in other conversations in your life as well. It's a great book. So those three will be my top choice for if someone wants to dive deeper into this topic.
Great recommendations, and yeah, there are many more written on specific topics. So yeah, well, I think most important is people start reading in this
Yep.
AI era.
Yep.
So
And if we are
that's there.
talking
And
about reading, I mean, you must read The Technical Sales by John Kerr. That's the Bible. If you need to convert to this religion, so to say. So that goes in. That goes without saying that that should be the first book. If anyone is trying to get in, should read.
yeah, and it stays relevant even today. So
Yep.
that's the great part
It's
of that book.
timeless.
So okay, so I'm still on the same topic, and I'll ask a very fundamental question: can trust building be taught, or it comes naturally, Abhishek?
I mean, for most of the people out there who feel they do not have trust, I'm sure in part they feel as if some people naturally have the charisma and they themselves trust some people more. But what they are missing again is the consistent behavior that those people are showing. So it's definitely can be taught. What I discussed about discovery, it can be taught. What I discussed about pushing back on ideas, it can 100% be taught. Executive presence can be taught. Everything can be taught. The important thing is doing it consistently over a period of time, and then trust can absolutely be earned. The people who naturally have it without you noticing, they have shown it to you as well. They have come back always. And that's why you trust them. So those are the same behaviors that you need to show. And again, as one of my AA used to say, that if the customer can lend you money, then you're really trusted. So be so trustworthy that customer can even lend you money if needed. So I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a good barometer to go for.
Never
Hmm.
attempted that, but yeah, that's a good
That's a
parameter.
very good point that you made. Talking about this a little further and deeper, right? Now, let's say there is a situation where there is an opportunity that was won, and then everything is going fine, and now the test of trust is coming into picture here, wherein there is a problem, there is an infrastructure issue, or there is some software issue, or maybe data is compromised. The customer who was trusting you is put in question, is having to face a tough task. How does building trust or maintaining trust or helping the customer work here?
Right. So I tell all SEs in my team at least that there are only two kind of SEs. It's just like there are two kind of riders in Bangalore. Either you have met with an accident or you're going to meet with an accident. So there are only two scenarios. So as an SE, either that has already happened to you or it is going to happen to you. So it's just one of the two. And so just know that it will happen. Something will break somewhere. When it does happen, and I still remember I was in Hyderabad selling storage to a large pharma company, and they had a dual drive failure at midnight, and customers not working, but they reached the data center and they called us in panic that that has happened. Nothing was down. It was running in a degraded state, but the account manager and I, we went there midnight. He picked me up and we went there. All we did was drink tea and just talked about stuff. It's not as if we could do anything. It was all there. We just raised a request for the warehouse to ship it. It will ship it at the time it will ship it. So I can't do really anything. All we were there is we were present for them. So my advice for anyone facing such a problem or a trust deficit is just to over communicate at that time. And I've felt that as soon as there is a downtime or a problem in my account, I suddenly turn into a project manager. So what you have to do is the SE has to become a project manager. You start aligning responsibilities, figure out who will do what, start communicating on a daily basis, over communicate, and at the end of it, see, no customer remembers what really happened. All they remember is how you treated them when that happened. So I believe that once the trust is broken and fixed, it is stronger than before. So if you have a scenario like that which has just come up, it's actually an opportunity. Broken trust is a fantastic opportunity to create even more trust. Not everyone gets that. But if you have gotten it, it's like a lottery ticket if you can cash it properly. Yep.
Yep. Would you like
Yep.
to share any story where you and your team have worked hard on an opportunity, but it could not be converted into a win because the trust was not there?
Yeah. So in Bangalore itself, I was involved in a long running POC. You know, every SE has been there. And the whole focus there for me was ensuring that the developers could compile their code faster on my device than the competitors. And we actually proved it. So there was too much focus from my side on ensuring that the technical product works better than anyone else. But what was missing in that is the strategic trust at every level. And as a vendor, it was just not there. So all the existing vendor had to do was come towards the end of our solution and kind of say, okay, this is the adjustment that we can make in our solution and it'll work. So trust has to be built at every level, not only at the technical level. So if any SE is working really hard on large opportunities, they should be asking everyone else in the ecosystem to ensure that the exec connect is there. Even if not, I would still say that a successful technical engagement is still a deposit in your trust account. It still is. Even if you lose that particular opportunity, you will be called again, which we were later on. And a smaller opportunity was given to us because we could show them what can be done. Or if the customer goes somewhere else, they will again remember you when the limitations do not exist. It's a small industry, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still on this, where you have emphasized a lot on AI tools, right? Are you seeing a shift where AI can become more of a trusted advisor, or the SE still holds the true value of being a trusted advisor?
I mean, there's obviously a lot of lack of psychological safety around it. AI and all the SEs are obviously thinking about it, even if they say or they do not. But I will always go back to a classic I mean, again, people in Bangalore will kind of relate to it. Whenever I have to go somewhere in Bangalore and I open Google Maps, it'll tell me 3 different ways to go there. I'm telling you, all 3 of them do not work because I know whether it has rained, whether there is a road repair somewhere, whether there are more signals on that road. There are other nooks and crannies you can take and reach somewhere faster. So there's always my judgment into it. I just don't blindly follow it. At the end of the day, what is missing in AI currently is again accountability. And remember, customers want that. No one is going to pick a solution just based on those because who is accountable if that doesn't really work? So, going back to the question, it has really made table stakes easy to achieve. So, as I said, it's extremely easy for SEs to get basic information. So now they need to spend time on double checking it, on ensuring that it is really standing on strong legs, and take it. I myself created an AI role play app which will act like a tough customer and kind of push back on whatever SE says so that you sharpen your axe before you finally go and cut down that tree. So you can use AI to sharpen those skills that I talked about of storytelling, of executive communication, so that when you are in that conversation, you do not focus on feature functionality, you focus on what will create trust.
Yeah, the worry I personally see, Abhishek, is you have a conversation and then they'll say, okay, let me check what Claude says. The worry I have personally is that as the models get better, stronger, maybe the confidence level grows, and that's the question. But yeah, I think time will tell.
No, you're right there. There are certain segments of the market where the PLG motion and AI-led sales in sales go-to-market has worked extremely well, and they are getting better every day. So there is no question that some part of the SE role is going to go, at least in certain product segments and certain markets, to AI. And that's why it's even more important for SEs to get better at soft skills, because important, critical, large deals are not going to get done by that. There's nothing that stops SEs from having a deeper commercial knowledge as well and creating connects there as well. So it's important for you to leave the level 1 skills that you are attached to and move to a higher level of skill acquisition. Definitely. The future demands it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about the last point actually as we wrap up. Is there a best practice in technical sales that is actually preventing the SEs to become the true trusted advisor?
You mean something which is keeping SEs from being a trusted advisor? Okay. Okay. In these cases, see, whenever you catch a flight, you go into a flight, you have no idea of who the pilot is. Do you? Nobody knows. But your life is in their hands. You trust them completely. So there is an implicit trust built in that the organization has created. You trust the process, you trust regulations, you trust the training that has happened, you trust the structure which has created this service. And that is intrinsic. That organizational trust is something that will always give you a leg up. And that's why SEs who are born and brought up in that kind of setup may not realize the lack of it. It is very common for SEs to spend more time in keeping the lights on than innovate. So it's very easy to fall into day-to-day business, jump from one opportunity to another because it feels comfortable. You have done it multiple number of times, so you can do it again and again. Whereas pushing back on a customer doesn't feel natural. Active listening doesn't feel natural. You want to jump and you want to say something, whereas the customer is still one sentence short. So these skills need to be practiced. They are all uncomfortable skills. So it has to be forced, which means that there has to be a systemized learning that the SE has to do. Ideally, the organization should be providing it from their own sites that they are set correctly. But in the moment, the SEs have to realize that their purpose is not to convince the customer and not to discuss obviously feature functionality, or not even to convince, is to reduce the risk associated with this decision that is in front of them. If they change their viewpoint, All I'll figure out is what is their core concern, what is the risk associated with this decision if they go with me, remove the risk while creating trust, and that automatically helps you in the next run. And again, remember to do it again and again. This is the most boring part. It's like brushing teeth. You have to do it like it's normal.
And just to add, Abhishek, I think they should also value trust. So while it's easier said than done, in the sense that you have to be a trusted advisor, but back of the mind, the SE should continuously know, feel, and act that I have to be. And once that happens, I'm sure every action will get aligned. And since that is not happening, he doesn't value being a trusted advisor at times. Maybe that may be one of the reasons why
Yep.
it is
If even if
stopping them.
even if you are in a transactional SMB kind of a setup where every time you meet a new customer, I have still seen SEs create trust within 30 minutes of the call. Why? Because they do a lot of pre-call trust. So they will send so much communication before the call, and sometime, as I said earlier, even short recorded videos, not text. So the customers have already seen them. There's a lot of video async communication that can happen even before the opportunity that sets you apart. No other vendor has done it. You have taken the time to do it. So once you're in the call, you can even do it if you just going to have one call and that's it. You can even do it there, but the intent has to be there. The traits that we are talking about, being credible, being reliable, being intimate, and not selfish, will show up in other parts of your life as well. It's very easy to kind of cross pollinate. So, yeah, you should value the trust. You should not take anything transactional because it will show up in other places as well in your professional life.
Great. So, Abhishek, this is episode number 4. We started with generic conversation, then we are getting into specific topics. So, first of all, big thank you to take time. This is a Sunday. Whoever is listening, we are recording this on a Sunday. So, your thoughts on this initiative?
Of course, this is a great initiative, and thank you for bringing. And before this podcast, I mean, if someone wants to watch the past episodes as well, they should. You had stalwarts of the company, and you brought in some very good points. And this series will definitely kind of helps SEs, because normally we don't talk about the craft. I normally don't see SEs talking to other SEs about creating trust. Who is talking about it? Nobody, unless they're in a enablement where it's already a one-sided communication. So this is of course great. And as I said earlier, the continuous conversation needs to happen. If any SE wants to develop higher level skills, probably they need to do how it is done, learn from other people's experiences, and whosoever you will bring in here will have those experiences to share. So this is a great resource for anyone to kind of latch on to and follow.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Abhishek, it's always fun to chat with you, and it was none different today. Thank you so much for taking your time out on Sunday and talking to us, sharing your perspective. To all our viewers, if there is anything that we can add value, which can help you bring more meaningful objective in your career and your perspective, feel free to reach out and we'll be more than happy to connect with you. Thank you so much. We are signing off here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.